Let's be honest, when you hear nuclear engineer, what do you picture? Probably someone in a giant white hazmat suit, right? Maybe some glowing green stuff in the background? Well, we're gonna tear down that Hollywood stereotype today. Let's get into what this job is really all about.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? We're gonna forget the clichés and pull back the curtain on the actual day-to-day, the crazy high-tech tools they use, and the incredible weight of responsibility that comes with the job. And this is all coming from people who actually work in the industry. Okay, let's just get this one out of the way immediately. This quote comes straight from an engineer in the field, and it says it all. The truth is, if you ever do see someone in that kind of gear, it's for a super specific, probably pretty rare task. For the vast majority of people, the daily uniform is, well, a lot more normal. And here it is. This picture is the reality check. You know, the most powerful tool for a modern nuclear engineer isn't a Geiger counter, it's their computer. This job is almost entirely analytical. It's about design, simulation, and planning. There's a great story from one engineer who said his dad's job was to go to meetings all day. He didn't believe it as a kid, but now, he totally gets it.
So, if they're not all wandering around the reactor core, what are they up to? Well, it turns out nuclear engineer is a really broad title. It covers a whole bunch of different super specialized roles. Let's break a couple of them down.
At a power plant, you can basically split the job into two big camps. First, you've got the on-site reactor engineers. Think of them as the guardians of the reactor. They're the ones in the control room, monitoring its performance, overseeing fuel changes. Then you've got the fuels and core design engineers. These folks are the architects. They're often off-site, running incredibly complex computer analyses to plan out the next fuel cycle. It's almost 100% a desk job, and it is absolutely vital for safety.
And hey, this field is so much bigger than just power plants. Nuclear engineers are absolutely critical for national defense, designing the reactors that power submarines and aircraft carriers. They're helping us explore space by creating power sources for deep space missions. They're in hospitals, developing new medical imaging technologies. The list just goes on, from national research labs to universities.
Okay, so how on earth do you manage something as complex as a nuclear reactor? The answer lies in a digital toolkit that is just unbelievably sophisticated. Let's take a quick look at the kind of software that makes modern nuclear engineering and its amazing safety record even possible. It all has to start with the basic physics. So they use codes that actually simulate the random path of individual neutrons to figure out radiation fields and design proper shielding. Then you have to know exactly how the cooling water is flowing. For that, you use advanced software to model every little swirl and eddy inside the reactor core. After that, you've got to analyze how heat is being created and, more importantly, how it's being removed. That requires another whole set of complex codes to model the system under every possible condition. And finally, the big one. They have powerful simulation tools that do nothing but model the absolute worst-case scenarios, the unthinkable accidents, so they can prepare for them. So what's the point of all that complex software? It all comes together for one single purpose: to create a digital twin of the real thing. It's about building these incredibly detailed mathematical models so engineers can test and analyze every single part of a plant's design, long before anything happens in the real world. It's how you achieve safety through simulation. And that brings us right to the heart of this whole profession. If you stripped everything else away, a nuclear engineer is a manager of extreme risk. Their entire job is built around thinking about, analyzing, and preventing things that must never, ever happen. I mean, just look at the whole nuclear fuel cycle. This is the engine behind a huge source of carbon-free electricity. But from the second that uranium comes out of the ground, all the way through enrichment, use in a reactor, and final disposal, every single one of those steps has unique risks that have to be engineered into safety. This quote from an engineer really just hits the nail on the head. For many of them, the thing they produce at the end of the day isn't physical. Their product is the analysis. It's the calculation, the report, the mountain of evidence that provides rigorous proof that a design is safe. So how do they actually do it? Well, it's a very systematic process. First, they identify literally every hazard they can think of: earthquakes, equipment failures, you name it. Then, they model what happens if those things occur, using complex what-if scenarios. After that, they analyze the consequences. And finally, they design, implement, and verify all the safeguards needed to prevent them. And what's so cool is that it doesn't matter if you're talking about a huge civilian power plant or a classified facility building a nuclear submarine, the core principles of managing that risk are exactly the same. The physics doesn't change, and that absolute commitment to safety is universal. So where does all this leave us?
Well, the entire field of nuclear engineering is standing at a major crossroads right now, with a whole new set of challenges and opportunities that are going to define the future of energy.
Think about it. Our current reactors are getting older, which takes a ton of engineering to keep them running safely. The generation that built them is starting to retire, creating a huge skills gap. And, at the exact same time, there's this wave of innovation with brand new reactor designs, like small modular reactors, that have to be engineered and approved. Tack on the challenges of digitalization and cybersecurity, these are the massive puzzles today's engineers are working on.
Which all leads to this final, huge question. The challenges are real, but so is the potential. As we look at a future that desperately needs more and more clean, carbon-free energy, the role of the nuclear engineer, the real one, at a desk, running simulations and managing risk, has truly never been more critical.